Hi guys, I'll be covering the Crelant 7G5CS in this video review. This is their latest super thrower, and as you can see it's got a super deep reflector, and we'll dive into this light in just a second. So the light arrives in what seems to be increasingly common, these environmental friendly packages, right? It's pretty much a nondescript cardboard box with perhaps a label indicating the specifications. Although I don't know if these are ANSI or not. Alright, it's got a max output of 895 lumens. We'll run on that for about 112 minutes. Can throw out to 500 meters with 116,000 K lux roughly. Impact resistance to 1.5 meter and water resistance to 5 meters. Now you will notice that there are these little stickers plastered here. The reason for this is this sample was provided by Mark Duchovny of MDLightSource.com, and he's running a little campaign called the Zombie Apocalypse Survival Light Series. So there's a few Crelant lights that are offered with it, and I'll get into what's the extras that he throws in just a second. So popping this open, standard accessories includes a holster, and as well as the user guide. I'll get into this in a second. And it did come with a black rubber tail cap cover installed, which I've swapped out already, a lanyard, and a full suite of O-rings, right? One large and two small ones that will cover the three O-rings that do come with the light. So placing this aside for a second. Alright, so for a limited time he's throwing in this glow-in-the-dark lanyard as well as this glow-in-the-dark tail cap, which I have installed already, and also Crelant branded 18650 batteries, which were not provided for review, but again that will be included for a limited time. Now I did want to get into this first because while it is glow-in-the-dark, I haven't really noticed it. I don't think it's particularly effective for non-dark adapted eyes, but I'll be testing that in my full written review. Now it does clip onto this lanyard attachment ring, which is aluminum. Alright, so this is unlike, say, the Surefire lights where this is actually made from plastic. The reason they do that is for safety reasons, in case the light snags or it just needs to be broken away. That plastic will give in order to, like I said, release itself, right, for safety purposes. Now in this case, because that attachment hole is actually very small, it won't accommodate this large lobster claw, but it does come with this miniature steel ring. So it is strong enough to carry the weight of the light during regular use, and then I suppose it is weak enough to break away in the event it does get snagged or whatever reason for safety purposes. Right? So leaving this on the side for a second, let's start digging into the main light. So the light does feature a large stainless steel bezel that is non-crenellated. It is easily removed. Again, I'll get into that in my written review. There is a glow-in-the-dark O-ring right around here, as well as you can see, there is a AR coating, double-sided, and situated within that deep reflector is a XML U2 that pumps out a maximum of 895 lumens. Alright, so giving a side profile, right? There are, I guess, what potentially is grip points, although it's not very particularly good. So I would say it's really more, form over function than anything. There's these machine grooves here that serves for aesthetics, and then 3 heat sinking fins. Now the head will disassemble from this point, and the LED module can actually be disassembled as well. So let me just get into that for a second here. Okay. As you can see, the LED is centered via this plastic mold here. And then, as mentioned, the entire assembly can be disassembled, LED assembly. There is a spring on the positive end here, and there is no anodization here, so that means that what that simply means is that you will not be able to lock it out at this end, but there is anodization on the tail cap end, which I'll get into a second after I pop this back in, so that you can lock out the light. Now this light runs on two 18650 size batteries, or it can run on 4 CR123As, standard primaries. Mark has been pushing particularly hard for this because, as you know, he caters to the law enforcement, first responder crews. So because of that, a lot of them cannot be bothered with recharging batteries and whatnot. So he's been a huge advocate of getting, working with the manufacturers to ensure that the lights are primary batteries compatible. So you can see there is this a spring on this end, and the tail cap can be disassembled via those two prongs here, right? So you stick a needle nose pry in there, twist it, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey in this case, right? And that will pop out the retainer, the switch itself. There's also a plastic retainer in there, and then finally the tail cap cover itself. Now on this end, there is also a stainless steel bezel as well, also non-crenellated. Right, so I guess if you drop it or whatnot, it should help protect the light a little better than just raw aluminum. Okay, now one thing you will notice is that the tail cap tail cap button is slightly recessed. Right, so from a, I guess, tactical use standpoint, you do have to kind of like hold the light a little further back so that your thumb has good leverage to get in there. I have medium-sized hands, so I don't have particularly large hands. But so for me, I guess it is a little problematic to get quick and easy, unfettered access to that button. However, though, I mean, it's not so horrible, but again, in consideration for tactical use, it may be a problem for some. Again, I don't use it for those purposes, so I can't say for sure. But, however, because it is perfectly flat, it does allow it to tail stand, even if, perhaps a little bit wobbly. And Mark did point out that, when you do have this light holstered, it won't accidentally activate it by bumping into your leg or whatnot as it's sticking out. Right? So I guess, there's pros and cons to that design. Right? Now the anodization was mentioned to be, I think, HA2. So that's a one step down from HA3. I actually have equipment that can test anodization thickness, although I haven't gotten around to learning how to use it yet. So hopefully for this review I will do that, get to that, and we'll measure the thickness. So the user interface, right? There is a primary on-off switch here, right? With this off, this button will not function whatsoever. Okay, this electronic switch. This is a mechanical forward clicky here. So upon turning the light on, actually let me just get a sheet of paper so you can see the beam as well. Cut out the light, and again, something for the autofocus to focus on. Alright, so given it is a thrower, it has a very, very tight beam, although I haven't measured lux yet, but I will get to that in my formal review and give you the numbers. Alright, so clicking on the switch, the light will turn on and off. It's quite simple. It does not change modes. Okay, now the side switch, when you depress it once while the light is on, it will shut the light off. Okay, and if you double click on it again, it'll instantly activate strobe mode. Double click on it again, and it'll activate SOS. At any point in this stage, if you click on the switch once, it'll just shut the light off. Sorry, let me let the autofocus catch up. Okay, and this, whatever it is that is currently in that mode, it is memorized. Well, actually, sorry, no. The SOS and the strobe is not memorized, but you can actually program this. How that works is that you would press and hold on to that switch, and it will actually start ramping downwards. There's about a 2-second gap at the lowest mode, and then it'll start ramping upwards until it reaches maximum, and then it'll flash 3 times to indicate it's reached max. At which point you let go. Whenever you let go, whatever state it's in during the ramp, that's what it'll memorize it to be. So I'm actually going to go back down to minimum again. Okay, there. So again, as long as the tail cap remains on, it will memorize this mode. So if I shut the light off now, it is programmed, and if I turn it back on, it will memorize it in this mode. However though, if I swap out the batteries or shut off the main on and off switch, it'll always instantly come back on in max mode. Okay? So that covers pretty much the UI portion. Now, a lot of you have been asking, hey, or even mentioning, this particular light bears a very strong resemblance to the Sunwayman T40CS. And indeed it does. Although, despite having the same size diameter, that reflector, I would dare venture a guess of maybe it's at least 1.5 to perhaps even 2 times the depth of the T40CS. Now you can see that in this shot here, depending on the depth, right, you can notice that the T40CS LED is closer, it's not as recessed, so it does look larger versus the one in the 7G5CS. Right? Now, again, the Sunwayman actually has fixed modes. It does not have the ramping that the 7G5CS does, but again, the side switch will instantly activate strobe on the Sunwayman T40CS. In terms of size-wise, because of this larger depth here, the light is overall a bit longer than the Sunwayman, but not overly so. Now, however, because it is a turbo head and it is a fairly long light, depending on how you hold it, if you hold it with an overhand grip, it is slightly unbalanced, but not too bad though. Doesn't really feel that particularly heavy that would cause any issues. Alright, so one last thing before I close the video is that there is this tactical I guess combat grip ring that you can slide pretty much back and forth here. Again, not a Leo, not a martial artist, so not going to get into that aspect, but for those of you who are and are interested, it's here. You can adjust it and custom tailor it to your grip. Okay, so hold it there between your fingers. I guess it provides a little more a solid grip there. Alright, I do have the initial written preview up and running, so I will reference the link to that. And again, as part of FCC disclosures, this light was provided by mdlightsource.com for review. And thanks again for watching.